Our source is Rockingham Estate, a 1930s social housing development in Elephant and Castle. It is one of few remaining council estates in the rapidly gentrifying area. Social housing was one of the policies at the core of British social democratic governments. What struck us as we walked around the estate was the sense of community, prompting us to consider the broader question on the role of the people in socialism. In relation to India, we will explore the role of self-help, communitarianism and the state, arguing that without significant state investment, the first two will always be limited in their success.
Sherman argues that Indian socialism must be understood as a socialism of scarcity and self-help, a notion that emphasises the importance the Indian government placed on the role of individuals and hard work in the drive towards achieving socialist goals, a result of the minimal resources in India following 1947. As we walked around Rockingham Estate, we noticed an underlying emphasis on self-help and hard work, as well as a role of individual and collective effort in the successful completion of local projects, which, in much the same way as in the Nehruvian era, appeared to be the result of a lack of government resources. In 2009, local residents redesigned the Rockingham Community Centre, painting large colourful murals on its exterior using a £5,000 grant from Southwark Council's Cleaner, Greener, Safer Fund, an initiative that invites individuals from the area to propose ideas that aim to improve the physical environment. The relationship between the local council and individuals in the regeneration of the community centre echoes a community development programme that aimed to deal with the felt needs of Indian villagers via the political mobilisation of peasants, students and workers in individual villages. Immerwahr, however, notes that the success of such schemes depended to a large extent on the ability of the local community to both clearly communicate their demands and possible discontents, and to subsequently carry out these schemes collectively to benefit the whole community. The fresh new exterior of Rockingham's community centre was painted by local young people, highlighting the fundamental importance of individual effort in the successful completion of projects, as well as the limited resources the state was able to provide to complete the job without local support. This was not always so successful in Indian villages during the Nehruvian era, as inequality between villages, as well as caste divides within communities, often reduce the ability of self-help and hard work, as championed by the central government, to achieve tangible socialist goals of development.
Connected to the idea of self-help was a strong sense of communitarianism in Indian socialist thought. This was posthumously influenced by Gandhi's vision of an India of linked, organic cells capable of self-sufficiency and self-governance, something that resonated with India's socialist belief in self-help. The achievement of a strong community spirit was central to India's socialist thinking, so important that Daniel Immerwahr regards communitarianism in India during this period to be a national philosophy. This community philosophy is shown architecturally by the estate in Southwark, which is strongly influenced by efforts to foster a community spirit. The flats are presented in a U-shape, creating a shared space for community engagement and activity, demonstrated best by the Rockingham Community Centre in the middle of the tower blocks. This encourages community engagement and is reflective of efforts by Indian rural development planners to introduce similar architectural modes of communitarianism to Indian villages. The centre of Indian villages would often be a communal space in which meetings and performances would take place, or for listening to the village radio. The latter case was of particular importance to the Nehruvian socialists, who placed great emphasis on the need for every Indian village to have a radio to listen to the national broadcast. Following this, as demonstrated by Paul Neurath's work on the Radio Farm Forum, Indian villages would often come together to collectively listen to radio broadcasts, emitting communitarianism in a manner similar to meetings at the Rockingham Community Centre.
The decline of Rockingham Estate's Play Association Park speaks to the role of the state in socialism. The park, funded by a charity, was unable to be maintained and is now shut off due to safety precaution, while the allotments that received council funding are thriving. Self-help without state funding is limited in reducing inequalities. In India, the state lacked the economic means to invest in building socialist projects. Council estates like Rockingham rely on state-subsidised rents to provide housing. The first of India's 5-year plans commented that in some highly industrialised countries, housing accommodation is provided, which are not an economic proposition in most countries at present. For India, an estate like Rockingham was beyond the means of the government. While it is possible to draw parallels between the community and self-help orientation of Rockingham Estate and Indian socialism, a key difference is the fact that at Rockingham this is all centred around housing provided by the state. The lack of funding for the community development projects in India undermined them, as wealthier communities were able to build and maintain better facilities. For instance, richer villages were able to compile more resources and therefore build better schools and wells than poorer villages. To some extent, the same is true of Rockingham Estate's Play Association playground. A wealthier neighbourhood may be able to maintain their play area without government funding, but on a low-income estate, this isn't possible. Banerjee and Ghosh point out how, in India, the variation of state resources meant development was not equal across regions. Richer states got wealthier, while without investment, poorer regions struggled. Thus, without state investment, socialist policies are limited and can even increase inequalities, as richer areas have more resources to help themselves.